The following is a presentation of Main Street Media, your source for news, sports, and information on Main Street in Middle Tennessee.
Welcome into the Thursday edition of Main Street Sports Today. I'm Maurice Patton, Justin Kulik, pushing the buttons and sliding the slides. And we are down a man today we're down a man, but we're up a child because Chris Yao is out today with his wife, Sarah, and they welcomed Chandler Elena Rose Yao into the world about 45 minutes or so ago. So congratulations to the Yao family, but we will be without Chris obviously today, and not sure how much longer after that, but he's gonna spend some time with his new one and with his older Charlie. And so again, congratulations to them, and we will struggle through as best we can without him today, but we've got plenty to talk about. Here in our next segment, we have got Belmont women's basketball coach Bart Brooks getting ready to join us, fresh off of a big win last night in their season opener against Chattanooga at the Curb Center, and getting ready to welcome top 10 ranked Louisville in for a Sunday afternoon game. So we'll be catching up with him in the next segment. We'll also be handing out a little hardware as we do every Thursday with our N2Win Life Southern Middle Tennessee Team of the Week and the Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Southern Middle Tennessee Athlete of the Week. So stay tuned for that. Obviously, again, it's Thursday. So we concentrate on high schools. We'll be talking a little high school football playoff action as we get ready for tomorrow night. And later in the show, we will have friend of the show, Joe Williams of the Williamson Herald, talking about a subject near and dear to his heart, Nashville Fairgrounds Racing. Big news coming out of there earlier this week, and Joe's going to kind of distill it down for us as only he can. So, Justin.
Hello.
What are you doing?
Not much, man. Just here to fill in.
Well, and much appreciated. See, you got your Titans gear on, ready for that bounce back game Sunday as Denver comes to town following that Sunday night debacle against Kansas City in overtime. So
Absolutely.
You're fired up.
I am, man. I'm going to the game. I'll be there. I'm looking forward to seeing Russell Wilson just because he's a physical specimen, just from what he's been able to accomplish in Seattle, not so much in Denver. But it'll be cool to see him. I was looking forward to it at the beginning of the season when I saw the game, and it's just even better that their offense is not good this year. So.
Their offense is not good, and what's funny is their offense is not good. Late in his career in Seattle, the offense had some questions about it. That offense with Geno Smith is really clicking now, and I saw an article maybe yesterday about one of the things that Pete Carroll and the Seattle coaching staff appreciate about Geno is he wears the wristband that allows you to kind of communicate a little bit easier with the offensive staff and that kind of thing. And apparently the quote is there was some resistance to that previously. Now, the only previous quarterback in Seattle was Russell Wilson.
Right.
So he's catching a lot of strays here out of Seattle here over the last little bit. And obviously Geno Smith has probably been the story of the NFL,
man,
to this point, the way he has played and pretty well revived his career. So kudos to him. And hopefully if you're a Titans fan, Dangerous will continue to not be for at least another week.
Right. Yeah. Let him cook as long as it's ramen.
Overcook, undercook, whatever it takes. Absolutely. Like I said, a lot to get into today, but before we do, we need to, as we always do at this time in the show, give you yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
NBA action from Wednesday night. The Memphis Grizzlies have got out with a 124-122 win over San Antonio. In women's basketball action, as we mentioned, Belmont with their home opener, a 56-54 win over Chattanooga. We'll be talking more, like I said, in the next segment with Bart Brooks about that and what they've got coming up. Women's junior college basketball action. Volunteer State takes it on the chin against Southwest Tennessee, 65-56. And Jackson State with a 71-54 win at home against Columbia State. Men's basketball action on Wednesday night. South Dakota Downs visiting Lipscomb, 85-77. Columbia State men go on the road and get a 101-68 win at Jackson State, while Vol State falls at home to Southwest Tennessee, 72-66. College football action on Wednesday night. A little action. Southern Illinois with a 3-point win over Western Michigan, 24-21. Also, Central Michigan, 31, Buffalo 27. And Kent State with a 40-6 win over Bowling Green. NHL action tonight. The Nashville Predators continue their Western swing. They are at Colorado. That's an 8 o'clock start on Bally Sports South. In NFL action, we got an NFC South matchup as Atlanta goes to Carolina. That's a 7:15 kickoff on Amazon Prime. And in women's basketball action tonight, let's see. Okay. UMass is at number 5 Tennessee, coming off of that loss at Ohio State a couple of nights ago. That'll be a 5:30 start on SEC Network Plus. On ESPN Plus, you've got Lipscomb going to Northern Kentucky. That game tips at 6. And at 6:30 at Memorial Gym, Vanderbilt's women host Samford. That game can also be seen on SEC Network Plus. And that is your rundown. Real quick, want to mention, as I mentioned, MACtion, the Mid-America Conference, with their midweek games that they typically play this time of year. The Conference USA announced that they and CBS Sports Network have a package starting next year, I think, where they will be playing some midweek games as well throughout the month of October. And we'll get more into that here over the next few days, but certainly want to throw that out there with MTSU and whoever else is in Conference USA these days. So that's a big deal, I would think. So should be fun. Top story of the day. Justin, have you heard about this?
What's up?
The Washington Commanders of the NFL apparently are being sued by District of Columbia Attorney General Carl Racine, who has filed a consumer protection lawsuit. It's being reported. I'm reading from Yahoo Sports, but this is on a number of media outlets. The Commanders, the NFL, Commanders owner Daniel Snyder, and NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell are being sued for their roles in covering up the workplace and sexual misconduct allegations against that organization. Quote, for years, the team and its owner have caused very, very real and very serious harm, and then lied about it to dodge accountability and continue to rake in profits. So far, they seem to have gotten away with it. So,
yikes.
This guy says the buck stops here. They have been lying to and deceiving DC residents, and
man, that is a mess over there, isn't it?
It is absolutely a mess. Yeah. The lawsuit claims that Snyder, Goodell, the Commanders, and the NFL violated the District of Columbia's Consumer Protection Procedures Act, which prohibits a wide variety of deceptive and unconscionable business practices. So,
gosh, I mean, it kind of seems like, well, you always hear like the owners have their own little kind of good boys club, or like they are kind of the way I see it, anyways.
mm-hmm.
They seem untouchable just because the owners vote on other owners' fate. Like it's kind of like the Vatican, like nothing leaves outside those walls.
Right.
So I'm surprised that it's all kind of crushing down. It sounds like one domino's fallen, or one did fall, and now it's kind of just starting to linger.
Yeah, it's like it almost kind of feels like a little piling on, but
Right.
I'm not sure it could happen to a better guy either. So it's going to be interesting. We talked a couple of weeks or so ago about basically bids being accepted for the team, as Daniel Snyder is in the process of selling certainly some part of, if not the entire franchise. And so, just like you said, just more crazy going on in DC or in Maryland, which is where they play, or in Virginia, which is where they train. So I mean, they got a lot going on, but it's never a dull moment with the Commanders, and this just continues that. So
Right. Do you think they change the name if whoever buys it changes the
again,
name?
you know,
Hilarious.
name changes always drive, gear sales and that kind of thing. So, it wouldn't necessarily be a surprise, but
Rebranding.
yeah, exactly. So something else to stay tuned for sure.
Right.
Gonna go ahead and take a break, and when we get back, we should have Belmont women's basketball coach Bart Brooks with us. So stay tuned here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck yes, that'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Tennessee, because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
To Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. I'm Maurice Patton. Chris Yao is hanging out with his newborn baby, Chandler Elena Rose, my bad, and wife Sarah. And so we'll be without him today, and not quite sure how much longer, but Justin Kulik on the other side of not the glass, but on the other side of this connection here, running things today. And
Yes,
we are on hold for Belmont women's basketball coach Bart Brooks here on Coach's Corner, presented by From the Heart Cafe over in Chapel Hill, as we typically do on Thursdays. So hoping to.
He's here now. Go ahead.
Is he here?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Bart Brooks, Belmont women's basketball coach, joining us again, as I said, on Coach's Corner, presented by From the Heart Cafe over in Chapel Hill. Be sure and check out Renee Hart and her fine folks over there. As you're headed toward Henry Horton from Columbia, just go across 99, make that right going to Henry Horton. Don't go left. And it'll be right there on your right, serving up some great sandwiches, entrees, desserts. Also doing some catering for your favorite business, and I'm sure she's got a Thanksgiving menu put together as well. So again, be sure and reach out to her for all of your food needs. Bart, welcome in, man. Appreciate you. I know y'all had a fun night, a great night last night in your opener down at the Curb Event Center. Particularly the last little bit, coming back from 14 down to down Chattanooga 56-54.
The last 26 seconds were beautiful, but up till then it's a stressor for us. But yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming in, man. And I noticed, I didn't get a chance to see exactly what she did, but welcome home, Sydney Harvey, huh?
Yeah, it's great to have Sid back home, and this was her first time playing at home, in her college career, in her 5th year as a college player, and finally getting to play in her hometown in front of her people, and it's great to have her. I think there's going to be a lot of improvement and figuring things out together as we learn each other, being her first year with us. But man, she's been a blessing to the program, and there's big things ahead for Sid for sure.
Former Brentwood Academy standout, began her career down in South Florida, and you can't have too many great guards, can you, Bart?
Guards they're the recipe for success, in my opinion. I've had a handful of seasons in my life as a coach without guards, and those seasons are always miserable. So if you've got good guards, you can figure stuff out. And we're blessed at Belmont. We've got depth at the guard spot, and I think we've got some really good big guys too. And but I think when you watch tournament basketball, especially at the end of the year, the teams with really good guard play are usually the teams that play late and win games in March. So I think that's a recipe that we've worked hard to build our guard depth, and Sid's a big part of that.
And you've got one that's as good as it gets with Destiny Wells, the junior, 20.7 rebounds in that win last night.
That's probably the most shocking thing about that box score. She led our team in rebounding, which might tell you how poorly we rebounded the ball, because she's not that's not something that she does often for us. But she's a dynamic player. She's a great scorer with the ability to make plays for teammates. And going into her junior year, I think there's a big target on her back. I think she's the first one that's talked about on every scouting report of the teams that play us. And she's just been really solid for us her first 2 years, and I'm excited about the progress she's made in the off season. She's been special. I think she's going to have a great junior year.
Well, and you're going to need her too, because particularly in this next one, I would guess, as you've got but it can also be seen at the Curb Event Center. And, when you get an opportunity to see a top team in town, I would hope that some folks would take that opportunity and come on down there. But Bart, got a question. When you see mid-major, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, non-Power 5 programs get these type matchups on their home court, it tends to happen much more often on the women's side than it does on the men's side. What would you attribute that to?
I think there's a handful of coaches out there on the women's side. Coach Waltz at Louisville is one of them, who will play anyone anywhere, and I think they have an appreciation for going on the road and playing good programs that a lot of people don't want to go play. And so I think we're really blessed at Belmont that I've got an administration that supports us playing this type of game. They want this type of game on campus at the Curb, and I've got a roster full of players that signed up for these kinds of games as well. So, the women's side, I can't really speak to what it is on the men's side. For the, I know there's so much more money involved in the guarantees and those kinds of things that, that might have something to do with it. But the women's side, I think we are very blessed that there are a lot of coaches in those Power 5 programs that they're willing to go play on the road and really, help a program like us, have some excitement and hopefully pack the house and have a great environment for their kids to play in. So I think it's a healthy thing on the women's side. I hope it continues.
Part of a really challenging pre-conference schedule for you guys. Followed up, you go Wednesday over to the Murphy Center to take on MTSU and Rick Insel's Lady Raiders. Go out to Iowa later on this month, playing in the Gulf Coast Showcase against Villanova and either Baylor or St. Louis. Got Georgia Tech coming in the first Sunday in December. ACC matchup there, and then Battle of the Boulevard against Lipscomb at Lipscomb. Go to Georgia, and got Troy coming in here just before Christmas before you guys kick off Missouri Valley Conference play. Have you gotten used to that yet?
It's going to be a new deal for us. We're obviously really excited to be joining the Missouri Valley. I think the day in, day out level of competition, top to bottom in that league, will be a significant challenge for us. And so we're really excited about that opportunity. And you just talking through our non-conference schedule, there's a lot of sleepless nights ahead of me is what it sounds like. I don't know who's in charge of this.
I don't know. Yeah, I was going to ask you who put that schedule together anyway.
I love, I think when I got the job here at Belmont, we had a vision for something much bigger than maybe what we were when we got the job. And I think part of that was the willingness and desire to go play anyone and everyone, and to put our team in this position that we get to play, a Final Four caliber team in the Curb, and that we get to go on the road and play a Final Four caliber team on the road in a couple weeks, or I guess a week away from Sunday in Iowa. So I just love putting our players in that position, giving them that opportunity and that ability to showcase who they are and what they can do on a big stage.
Swing hard in case you hit it, right?
And people say, well, what if you lose all those games? And I say, well, what if we win? what if we can win a couple of those games, and how much that could change a program. So I just love having that opportunity on our schedule.
And obviously you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. You got plenty on your plate, but the opportunity to match up with Caitlin Clark, one of the top players in the country and on a lot of folks' short lists as player of the year this year, and some would tell you she should have been last year. I'm personally an Aaliyah Boston fan, but hey, that you didn't talk about sleepless nights.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to think about her right now. I mean, that's a whole nother level of talent, and that's one of those players that you can do everything right, and she can still have a big night. And I've told a lot of people we have a good chance to be on Sports Center, whether she scores 40 or 50 and she's on Sports Center and we're on there too, or maybe we play great and we give them a game and make Sports Center that way. But either way, it's going to be a great challenge for us, and just to be able to play against a player of that caliber. If you do your job and you work your way into the NCAA tournament, which is a very difficult thing to do every year, but if you get that opportunity, you're usually going to be playing against a team that has that level of talent, or someone who's a really, really good player. So, playing in that environment against that level of talent, I don't think we're going to see better guards. So I love that we get that opportunity.
Bart Brooks, a women's basketball coach at Belmont, joining us here on Coach's Corner, presented by From the Heart Cafe over in Chapel Hill. And Bart, and obviously you were a lot more familiar with the Missouri Valley than probably some of your fans and that type of thing, certainly some of the area media. But Missouri Valley women's basketball, what are your expectations out of that? Who are the folks that your fans of Belmont women's basketball need to be most concerned about as they consider this season? I would think Missouri Valley, I guess, is still among those, but who are you most concerned with?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's familiar with Murray State. They're coming with us, and they've got a great returning roster. They return everyone from last year, and they got a couple of transfers that'll help them. So they're going to be really, really talented. I never want to forget about those guys. But the new schools that we'll be playing, the Iowa schools, Drake and Northern Iowa, have both been historically really good, and they've both been to multiple NCAA tournaments here in the last 5-6 years. They return. Drake returns 4 starters, including a fifth year senior transfer from Iowa State and Grace Berg, or transfer from Missouri and Grace Berg, who's really, really talented. And so they're those 2 schools. That's going to be a weekend. We'll be on the road and play them both on a weekend, and then we'll be home, play them both here on a weekend. So that'll be a really challenging test for us. Illinois State won the tournament last year, and they bring a lot back, coached really well. Missouri State has been an at-large team for the last 3 years, and they've been really good. They've been a Sweet 16 team a couple of times in those 3 years. So we've definitely got our hands full with the parity in this league. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that are good enough to win it all, and that's exciting. And I hope we can put ourselves in that mix as we go through the season.
And, we've talked about Destiny. We've talked about Sydney. What do you like about your team as you get ready to take on that challenge?
Yeah, I think this team that we're coaching this year, I think this is the most talented team that we've had top to bottom since we've been here. And that's exciting. But we're nowhere close to where we need to be. We're not a well-oiled machine yet, and I think last night is proof of that. That there's a lot of buttons that we need to get figured out, and I might not be putting people in the right places yet, and rotations are a little bit off. But man, I absolutely love the talent that we have on this roster, and we've got a lot of people who can score. We've got a lot of versatility. We've got a really good complementary skill set with our players. That we've got shooting, we've got playmaking, we've got size, we've got people who can score on the block around the basket. So I really like our team. We're not where we need to be yet, but I don't know if anyone is. I think this time of year you start to play and then you figure things out as you go. But we're extremely excited about this group.
I can't imagine you would have expected to be where you want to be on November 9th anyway. So.
No, I'd be in trouble if we were any good right now. Yeah.
You were good enough last night, though. So Bart Brooks, 1-0, putting that record on the line Sunday at 4:00 when number 7 Louisville comes to the Kirby Event Center. You're not going to get too many chances outside of SEC play to see a better team come to Nashville than this. So if you're a women's basketball fan, get on over to the Kirby Event Center Sunday afternoon. Check out Jeff Walls and the Louisville Cardinals coming in to take on Destiny Wells, Sydney Harvey, Bart Brooks, and the Belmont Bruins. Bart, appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon, man, and good luck to y'all this weekend.
Thank you for having me on. Appreciate you guys.
All right. That's going to do it for segment 2 here on Main Street Sports Today. When we come back, we'll get into, first we will give out some hardware that we did not give out at the top of this segment. And then we're going to get into a little high school football playoff action. So come back with us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Maury County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back to Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint. I'm Maurice Patton, Justin Kulik running things today. Chris Yao welcoming baby Chandler Elena Rose in, he and his wife Sarah, and obviously out of pocket today. Hope to have him back sometime next week, I would think. So we will muddle through here over the next few days without him as we get into high school football playoff action. Second round is tomorrow night. Always exciting. Before we get too deep into that, though, I need to catch us up on something that we did not take care of in the second segment during our Coach's Corner segment presented by From the Heart Cafe over in Chapel Hill. Need to give it out a little hardware. This week's Into Win Life Southern Middle Tennessee Team of the Week, sponsored by Custom Stone Handlers, Ned Rich and his fine folks. Sorry. This week's Into Win Life Team of the Week is the Mount Pleasant Tiger football team, opening playoff action last weekend with a decisive 41-0 win over Scotts Hill to open Class 2A state football playoff action. The Tigers get ready for a second round matchup tomorrow night against Decatur County Riverside. We'll be talking more about that later in the show. But the Tigers are our Into Win Life Team of the Week this week, and our Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint Southern Middle Tennessee Athlete of the Week, independent senior running back Trey Hartwell. The Eagles fell 27-10 down at Houston in Class 6A opening round action, but Trey 14 carries, 159 yards, and scored the Eagles' only touchdown in that loss. So big night in his final night in the blue, green, and gold for the Eagles. So congratulations to Trey. Again, round 2 of the football state playoffs tomorrow night. Not a whole lot of local action in 1A, just because we don't have a whole lot of 1A teams, but we lost a few of those, obviously. One big game in round 2 involves Gordonsville going to South Pittsburgh. The Tigers now 8-3 following their 49-8 win over Lookout Valley. South Pittsburgh improves to 9-2 with a big 52-17 win over Red Bull and Springs. So Gordonsville gets on the bus and heads south to take on the Pirates down there. A couple of perennial, state championship caliber programs there in Gordonsville and South Pittsburgh. Both of them have gold balls in their trophy cases. So this ought to be an interesting one to keep an eye on here in the second round in particular. Also, Clay County taking on Whitwell. They're going on the road for that one as well. Clay County opens with a 49-0 win over Sale Creek. Whitwell knocks out Joe Burns 38-13. Both those are on the east side of the 1A bracket. In 1A going west, Fayetteville following a 75-28, yes, 75-28 win in round one over South Fulton, will host Dresden. Dresden defeated Eagleville 45-14 last Friday night. The winner of that one will take on the winner of Moore County and McKenzie, and that game is in McKenzie. Moore County, the number 2 seed out of Region 5 1A, opened with a 28-14 win over McEwen. McKenzie 63-0 over Wayne County to get started. So, couple of interesting matchups right there. Fayetteville winning the state championship a couple of years ago. And I think McKenzie won it last year. They were in the state finals. I don't remember. Sorry. I need to do my homework. But yeah, a couple of potentially interesting quarterfinal matchups coming out of those Gordonsville, Clay County, Fayetteville, and Moore County matchups there in 1A. So some interesting second round games tomorrow night. In 2A, as we mentioned, Mount Pleasant advanced with a 41-0 win over a Scotts Hill team that they had also beaten in week 2, 43-0. So Mount Pleasant has pretty well had its way with Scotts Hill in a couple of matchups this year. May not be quite as easy this time against a Riverside team that had a kid go for 291 and 5 touchdowns last week in their 56-31 win over Loretto. So this should be a heck of a ball game here when Riverside comes into Mount Pleasant tomorrow night. That's a second round matchup on the west side of the bracket. Also, Adamsville, after their 35-34 win at Richland, goes to Lewis County. The Panthers defeated Cascade 32-24 to open playoff action last weekend. And those two winners, Adamsville, Lewis County, and Mount Pleasant, Riverside, will face off in next week's quarterfinal action. In the top side, the east side of the bracket, East Robertson, the number 1 seed out of Region 4-2A, opened with a 55-28 win. Westmoreland with a 16-12 win over Meigs County goes to Tyner, which defeated Trousdale County 47-14 last week. So again, another couple of intriguing matchups there in 2A as well. In 3A action, west side of the bracket, Fairview, following their 47-6 win over Maplewood, will take on Smith County. Smith County, which won the Region 5 3A championship by defeating East Nashville, state runner-up last year in the regular season finale. Smith County knocked off Sycamore 41-0 to open playoff action last weekend, so they will come down I-40 and take on the Yellow Jackets. Chris Hughes' bunch over in Fairview tomorrow night. East Nashville, which opened with a 14-10 Riverdale before they lost up at Smith County in week 11. So starting to try to get back on the beam, but a defensive struggle there against White House, won that one 14-10. They travel by virtue of that second place finish in the region. They travel to Waverly, a 52-24 winner over Stratford to open playoff action. Waverly now 9-1, and that one loss courtesy of Columbia Academy back in week 2 of the season. So a couple of interesting matchups again there in 3A. Also, Giles County on the east side of the bracket opens with a 46-8 win over Brainerd. They will take on visiting Loudon, a 31-7 winner over Cannon County in week 1. So some intriguing matchups here in the opening rounds in Class 1. keep an eye again on the west side of the bracket on Peabody, the number 1 seed out of Region 7, 1A. They advanced with a 35-0 win over Bluff City. They get Booker T. Washington out of Memphis, a 24-6 winner over Halls, and Lake County, a 36-6 winner in the first round over Memphis Middle College. They now take on Mace, Memphis Academy of Science and Engineering. Mace defeated West Carroll 50-0. So you got a couple of teams there that can put some points up, and should be entertaining to keep up with those. Again, those two winners will play each other in the quarters, and their semifinal would be against that Fayetteville, Dresden, Moore County, McKenzie bunch. So the west side of the bracket in 1A, pretty intriguing there. Again, a couple of recently previous state championship game participants in Fayetteville and McKenzie in particular, and Peabody, no slouch either. One of those three may be your team coming out of the West, probably. In Class 2A, Westview and Union City play tomorrow night after winning their playoff openers, and then you've got Huntington and Fairleigh out of Memphis. Huntington defeated Mitchell 50-12. Fairleigh defeated Camden 62-33. So a couple of track meets there. In fact, all four of the games in that quarterfinal quadrant were pretty high scoring on one end anyway. So a lot of points being scored in 2A. And Hampton, the Class 2A champion, I believe, last year, I think they defeated last week. They take on visiting Monterey in week 2. Monterey defeated Happy Valley 40-6. In 3A, yeah, obviously we can't talk about 3A and not talk about Alcoa. They opened play last week with a 42-0 win over Johnson County. They've got Pigeon Forge tomorrow night. Pigeon Forge with a 48-0 win over West Green. So the beat goes on for Alcoa. They and Giles County could match up in a semifinal game, and that game, if it were to happen, would be in Pulaski, y'all. So if you don't have anything to do, you may want to make your way down to the Brickyard for that one and get a chance to see the Tornadoes coming in from East Tennessee. Want to skip a little bit to Division II postseason play here real quick, as 13 win over Fayette Academy. They will travel to Friendship Christian over in Lebanon for a quarterfinal game tomorrow night. Also in quarterfinal, Christian for the second week in a row, it comes way west after defeating Clarksville Academy in Clarksville 43-42 in overtime. They go to University School of Jackson tomorrow night in a quarterfinal. Also, Nashville Christian hosts Trinity Christian. The Eagles were idle last week. They had a bye as the number 1 seed out of the middle region. Trinity Christian opened with a 24-20 win over the Kings Academy, and Middle Tennessee Christian, after their 45-14 win over Tipton Rosemark, goes to Jackson Christian. The Eagles opened with a 49-14 win over Columbia Academy to advance and get that home game there. In D2 AA, of course, it all starts with Lipscomb. They take on Silverdale, a 27-23 winner over ECS last week. Silverdale comes to Lipscomb. In the other quarterfinal matchup in that side of the bracket, Knoxville Webb got a bye. They are undefeated at 9-0. They take on Davidson Academy, a 29-14 winner over North Point. In the top side of the bracket, Lausanne with a bye, and with Ohio State commitment Brock Glenn at quarterback, they take on Christ Presbyterian. The visiting Lions improved to 6-5 with their 27-16 win over Boyd Buchanan last weekend. The other quarterfinal matchup in D2A has Franklin Road Christian going to Chattanooga Christian. FRA with a 49-27 win over Knoxville Grace to open the playoffs. Chattanooga Christian down Good Pasture 27-7 without Mr. Football semifinalist Boo Carter, who, as we mentioned earlier this week, Chattanooga Times Free Press reported that Carter was suspended for that game and has since left the team. And so that could be an interesting matchup there, because FRA goes in at full strength and features junior running back Ty Clark III. And it, again, should be interesting to see how Chattanooga Christian responds with one of their key cogs. Boo Carter, a Mr. Football semifinalist, is recruiting options were down to UT, LSU, and Michigan. So obviously a difference maker there for CCS, and we'll bear watching to see how they deal with not having that talented individual on their team this week and going forward. In D2 AAA, McCallie, following their 42-6 win over St. Benedict, takes on Ensworth here in Nashville. Ensworth had a bye last week as the number 2 seed out of the West, and McCallie trying to get back to the state finals yet again. The winner of that McCallie-Ensworth game will get Christian Brothers or MBA. Christian Brothers opened with a 42-27 win over Knoxville Catholic, which turned out to be the last game for Corey Mobbs, who resigned earlier this week at Knoxville Catholic. MBA getting a bye after going 10-0 and earning the number 1 seed out of the East region. Bottom side of the D2 AAA bracket, MUS, after defeating Father Ryan 17-10, travels to Baylor, the number 2 seed out of the East. Had a bye last week, did the Red Raiders. And Pope Prep, which defeated Briarcrest 35-13 last week, travels to Brentwood, the West number 1 seed, Brentwood Academy Eagles there. So lots of great second round or quarterfinal matchups, depending on whether you're looking at Division 1 or Division 2. But we will get further into this playoff look for Class 4, 5, and 6A after we take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Stay with us.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck yes, that'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Tennessee, because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back to Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. I'm Maurice Patton, Justin Kulik on the for the second time today with wife Sarah, as Chandler Elena Rose Yao joined us earlier today. So again, congratulations to the Yaos. Chris will be back with us at some point next week, I would imagine. And so for now, you're stuck with me. Anyway, we're gonna continue looking at second round playoff action across Tennessee. We get into Class 4A, and the west side of the bracket features Pearl-Cohn. The Firebirds, the number 1 seed out of Region 5 4A, finished up the regular season 8-2 and open playoff action last week with a 38-0 win over Jackson Southside. They have Hardin County making the long trip up from Savannah into Nashville tomorrow night. Hardin County survived Creekwood last weekend, 14-7 at home. So that's how you got to that matchup there. The winner of that game will play either Marshall County or Lexington. Marshall County heading west after downing Chester County 49-17 in the opener. The Tigers head into that 10-1. Lexington defeated Greenbrier 40-6 to open playoff action last weekend. And basically that is all of the Middle Tennessee action in 4A. Most of our 4A teams are in that one Region 5 4A region, 9-team region there. So gets a little unwieldy, but that's where we're at, and they play west. So you could see a Pearl-Cohn Marshall County rematch there in next week's quarterfinal action. Pearl-Cohn looking pretty strong in 4A, but also looming for them is an undefeated Haywood team that opened playoff action last week with a 67-0 win over Kirby. So keep that in mind as well. Haywood faces South Gibson tomorrow night. The Hornets opened with a 35-18 win over Craigmont. In the other second round matchup on the west side, you've got Milan, a 42-7 winner over Ridgeway last week, taking on O'Brien County Central, which downed top-seeded Melrose 42-32. So big upset there from seeding purposes. And O'Brien came into that game 5-5. So I guess that gotten used to seeing coming out of the East to the state championship game. Greenville and Elizabethton both opened with victories. Greenville improved to 11-0 with a 45-6 win over Knoxville Fulton, and Elizabethton opened with a 49-7 win over Knoxville Carter. Now, Greenville plays Gibbs this week. Gibbs down Granger 49-14. Elizabethton plays Anderson County. The east side of the bracket has East Hamilton, a 21-14 winner over DeKalb County, taking on Upperman, a 34-7 winner over Chattanooga Central, and Red Bank, 8-2 Red Bank, the number 2 seed out of Region 3 4A, but one of those two losses came to 1A Fayetteville. So for what that's worth, Red Bank in the second round of the playoffs after their 21-14 win over Macon County takes on Stone Memorial, a 37-0 winner last week over Hickson. So that's your 4A second round slate. In 5A, couple of games that should have a lot of people's attention. As Page, the number 2 seed out of Region 6 5A, travels to Mount Juliet, the number 1 seed out of Region 5 5A, and I'm expecting this one to really be a doozy, guys. Mount Juliet defeated Lincoln County. You're aware, was the 5A state finalist last year, fell to Powell in the championship game down in Chattanooga, and Mount Pleasant, a lot of great tradition there. And again, the number 1 seed out of Region 5. So Page dropped a couple of ball games late in the year. They fell to undefeated Nolensville, and then lost to Independence 13-0. But I'm intrigued to see how the Patriots bounce back, and they started last week again with that 48-21 win over Green Hill. Nolensville, as we mentioned, undefeated 11-0 now following their 41-3 win over Wilson Central to open playoff action. They now catch Malachi Dowell in White County. The Spartans opened with a 49-30 win over visiting Franklin County last week, so should be a intriguing ball game as well. White County again now 9-2, got a Mr. Football semifinalist in Malachi Dowell, and Nolensville has been a really good defensive unit all year, so I think they'll have their hands full and should be fun to watch. Also on the west side of the bracket, Portland goes to Henry County. Portland, after that scorigami 11-7 win over Southwind, and down in Memphis, they now travel again to Paris to take on the Patriots, a 49-14 winner over Dyer County. And Springfield goes on the road as well. The Yellow Jackets defeated Memphis Central 27-7. They now go to Munford, which defeated Clarksville Northeast 36-18 last week. In the top side of the bracket, you've got Daniel Boone and Knoxville Central playing tomorrow night. Boone with a 37-15 win over Knoxville Halls. Central with a 21-14 win over Knoxville Central last week. Morristown West advanced to the second round with a 31-21 win over Sevier County. They will take on Knoxville West, one of the few teams to ever beat Alcoa and Maryville in the same season. The Rebels open playoff action with a 56-7 win over David Crockett last week. So Morristown West, good luck. Powell, the defending 5A state champion, opened with a 49-14 win last week over Ooltewah. They will take on Walker Valley, which defeated Carnes 20-14 last week. And then McMinn County, the top seed out of Region 4 5A, defeated Campbell County 39-7. They will now host Oak Ridge, a 36-17 winner over Ray County in second round action tomorrow night in Class 5A. 6A, second round action. Beach and Smyrna up on Shackle Island tomorrow night. This ought to be a 22 win over McGavock, and they have quietly or not so quietly been one of the better teams in 6A in Middle Tennessee this year, and Smyrna is just traditionally tough. I think this is going to be a heck of a matchup, and again, if you don't have a dog in a hunt but you enjoy high school football, this might be a pretty good one to get out to. The winner of that ball game will play the winner opened playoff action last week with a 48-0 win over Gallatin. Clarksville with a 47-14 win over Overton last week. And then the bottom side of the West bracket, Memphis rivals, well, Germantown rivals, Germantown and Houston will face off tomorrow night. Houston with a 27-10 win over Independence last week. Germantown came up here and downed 7-6A top seed Ravenwood 30-20 to advance. Brentwood, meanwhile, travels to Bartlett. Brentwood, after defeating Collierville 17-7 in opening round action. Bartlett knocking out Centennial 46-28 in last week's opening round. Top side of the bracket includes two-time defending state champion Oakland, which opened with a 65-0 win last week over Shelbyville. They will face Lebanon in the second round for the second year in a row, I believe. Lebanon defeated Riverdale 41-34 in double overtime last week to earn the right to go to Murfreesboro and take on the Patriots. That winner will face the winner of Coffee County and Blackman. Blackman defeated Cookville 49-20 last week. Coffee County with an overtime victory as well, 28-21 over visiting Stewart's Creek. So Coffee County Blackman winner takes on the winner of Oakland and Lebanon. And in the far east, such as it was, Science Hill faces Farragut. That game will be in Johnson City. The Hilltoppers opened with a 35-20 win over Bradley Central last week. Farragut defeated Jefferson County 17-7. That winner will play the winner of Bearden and Maryville, 7-3 Maryville. I'm sorry, 8-3 now. After their 49-0 win over Morristown East, Bearden advances with a 14-6 win over Dobbins Bennett. So that sets up your Class 6A second round matchups. And be sure and check out Friday Night Lights tomorrow night with George Plaster, Zach Womble, Billy Derrick, and a cast of thousands checking in from across Middle Tennessee with previews and updates from playoff games here in the area. Also, be sure and check out MainStreetPreps.com and MainStreetMurray.com for coverage of playoff action this weekend. That's going to do it for this segment. When we come back, we will be joined by one of the top NASCAR historians, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, in this area, Joe Williams, and he's a very happy camper these days, so I'm excited to get with him here when we come back on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint.
This is Chris Yao with Main Street Sports Today. Every show, Mo Patton and I welcome friends from all across the sports landscape, from high school coaches and reporters to national, college, and pro sports personalities. You never know who might stop by for a chat. AP Tennessee Sports Editor, three-time Tennessee Sports Writer of the Year 2020 TSWA Hall of Famer. She covers the Titans, the Predators, the Grizzlies, college football, and hoops. Please make welcome Teresa Walker.
Former University of Tennessee, former Team USA Olympian, ex-Cy Young Award winner, R.A. Dickey. R.A., did I miss anything?
Man, that was sweet. Yeah, I need to listen to that before I go to bed every night. That was nice.
Has 5 sports Emmys. That's not bad for the other guy in Wham, Ryan McGee.
The other guy in Wham married the best looking girl, Bananarama. So the other guy in Wham had a pretty good life.
From preps to pros, we're taking on the sports topics you care about. Tune in across Main Street Media social platforms at 2 p.m. or on demand on your podcast distribution platform of choice.
Welcome back to Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. I'm Maurice Patton, Justin Kulik getting us through today's show. The two of us are kind of we're hanging in here without Chris Yao. He's kind of the straw that stirs the drink pretty much, but he's taking care of some much more important duties today, becoming Papa Yao for the second time as Chandler Elena Rose joins he, Sarah, and Charlie. So congrats to the Yaos. And without further ado, we're going to welcome in Joe Williams of the Williamson Herald. Before he was Joe Williams of the Williamson Herald, though, he was Joe Williams of the Nashville Fairground Speedway, amongst other things. And
Yeah.
It's been a great week for Joe. And Joe, you know, I am not the NASCAR person on this show. He is in maternity recovery, I guess, right now. But so I'm gonna the floor is yours.
Well, first off, I want an introduction like R.E. Dickey's. For whatever it's worth. Secondly, congratulations to Chris, man. That's great news, and I hope you'll pass that along for me. What's happened, Maurice? Yeah, I've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this NASCAR thing and racing thing around here for a lot of years. And in one of my early days, back in the early 80s, I'm the last remaining member of the staff from the old Nashville Raceway. The last time we had a cup race there, I was there when Mr. Hodgson, quote unquote, went broke. NASCAR pulled the dates. They told us ain't never coming back. And the place has sat there for 40 something years. And there has been little to no maintenance, much less changes. Project's been underway for about 5 years to reinvigorate the racetrack at the fairgrounds in Nashville. And there have been a lot of folks who've worked awfully hard, and I have to call out my friend Norman Parton, who has really, really busted his chops behind the scenes for 5 years. Tuesday, we go to a fair board meeting, and we hear the mayor, John Cooper, had entered into a letter of agreement to work on this project with the folks at Bristol Motorsports about a year ago, which was kind of the formal thing. And everybody's been worried because nothing's happened along the way. Well, they've now presented the fair board with a lease agreement, with a development agreement, and a way to pay for all the changes that need to be made without costing the taxpayers anything. Part of that, yeah, no, really, seriously. I know you chuckle, but I can tell you how it's going to happen. Part of the lease agreement also says that Bristol gets a 30-year lease out of the deal, but they also guarantee there will be a cup race at Nashville at least every other year.
At least.
Could it be more? Sure it could, but that's a minimum guarantee. It's just, those who've worked this for so long, Maurice, you've heard me talk about this for years. Gee, I wish that could happen. And everybody wanted to say never. And I wrote a column today in the Herald that said, never say never. And I'm a big believer.
Never is about 40 years, right?
Well, right now, look, you got to understand, I've also done the PA work out at the Super Speedway in Gladeville. And I really thought when it opened up, we had a chance. And, of course, that didn't happen. They closed. Dover bought the Super Speedway, and I've been honored to be able to go back and work the last two. And I'm not going to lie to you, man, we threw the green flag on the first cup race out there 2 years ago. There were tears in my eyes because they said it'd never come back to Nashville. And I just knew what a great market this is for the sport. Bristol has now purchased Dover. So now they own both of them. They own the Super Speedway and hopefully with a lease here shortly, the fairgrounds. And the beautiful part of it is, seriously, there's no cost to the Nashville taxpayer, which is basically unheard of. And, the Titans deal is such a great idea, but they're beginning to hesitate a little bit here and there. They want more answers on the financing. And I'm sure this will go through it, but this was laid out so cleanly. And I think there's two things that tells me this is a done deal, that there are no more questions, that this is going forward. First off, you have a fair board now that is completely 180 degrees different than what we dealt with years ago. Mm-hmm. These folks get it. They're supportive. They understand what it can bring. There are no personal agendas against it. Secondly, when Butch Spearden walks in and says, we're going to pony up the convention group is going to give you $17 million to get started. We're going to guarantee that every year we'll rent 20 days to the place for $650,000. So there's guaranteed revenue. And he comes out and he's really honest. He said, look, when we first started talking redevelopment 10, 11 years ago, I thought softball fields and parks were probably the best thing that we could do here. He said, but the people got together and they voted. And you remember the charter amendment. 71% of the people in Metro Nashville said, we want to keep the functions at the fairgrounds the way they are now. We want to keep racing. We want to keep a flea market. We want to keep a fair. He said, that told me right then we needed to start thinking about how we make that happen. And now the Nashville Visitors and Conventions Corporation, I think I've got that backwards somewhere, but they'll, the folks who make the city go are behind it 100%. Everybody now understands how important, how big this can be for us. And I got to tell you, it's going to happen. It's done. I really it's done. No, I don't see anything to stop this. Dover is guaranteed $1 million a year for 4 weekends. They've guaranteed another 100,000 plus, I think, for a total of 10 racing weekends. There's no expansion of racing weekends from what we got now, which is one of the issues that the neighbors have had. They're putting in state-of-the-art sound barriers soundproofing to go around the racetrack. The fan experience is going to be like nothing we've ever dreamed of being at that facility. I'm trying to remember everything is, the first $1 million a year, I think, of sponsorship, or 600,000 that goes in the pot to pay for everything. Excuse me. There's another, there's about 4 or 5 places where revenue flows in, and none of it comes from the Metro coffers.
Which sounds pretty foolproof.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about everything that other people have already committed to it, and everything that Nashville is going to gain from it, without having to put a whole lot of financial skin in the game themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all win-win, sounds like.
Well, big question always starts to become, well, how are we going to pay this? Well, the state's put in $17 million as a grant to get things going. The convention group has put in another set. So there's $34 million already sitting on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the thing that will take time, the Fair Board is going to need to approve the lease and development agreement. In the process, they will actually then form a lease with the Sports Authority, because the Sports Authority has the ability to issue bonds, revenue bonds, to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
And all the money that's generated then is repaid. Those bonds are repaid by the revenue that comes into the facility. There's your catch. It doesn't come from Metro. It comes from the revenue that the facility creates. And Bristol's sitting out here kind of on the hook for that. If there's not enough revenue to cover the bonds, then they're going to have to come up with it.
But again, no risk to Nashville.
No. A lot of folks don't understand this. When Dover built the super speedway, that was part of the deal with the Sports Authority. Was the biggest thing that they were most worried about was not necessarily the facility, but they had to get sewer to it. You're not going to build a package plant for something that big. Well, all those years that Dover didn't race, they were still on the hook to pay the bonds. That's why they tried to stay busy with practice and, car shows, etc. Well, what did Wilson County get out of it? Have you been out 840 lately, between the super speedway and I-40, and seen the warehouses and the growth in that area? How did that happen? They built a sewer.
There's a joke. There's a joke there somewhere.
Yeah, well, I haven't been in city work. Yeah, I know. But we can't go there.
No, let's not.
But no, this is massively exciting if you're a race fan, and I know one of the other things that's in this contract is they are guaranteeing that local racing will continue. Now, what does that look like? I don't think they can tell us right now. Mm-hmm. But you know what? I mean, they just submitted contracts and leases. The actual operation, I mean, we got to turn a spade of dirt or two, boys and girls, because my understanding is, looking at what I've seen, and the roof over the grandstand is extremely historic. It won awards because there are no posts to block your view. Well, they're going to have to bring that down, take everything out, rebuild up, and then bring this roof back. They're committed to bringing that historic roof back to this property. So there is so much to be done. I don't think anybody's ready to say, on Saturday, June 27th of 2025, we're going to run a 50-lap late model race. It just ain't ready.
So what happens, Joe? I mean, with those spade or two of dirt that are going to have to be turned, is the fairgrounds going to be off limits for racing for some period of time while they make the improvements necessary to enact all of this?
Well, because it's a short track, they if once this stuff is signed and in order, excuse me again, the developmental time frame, the old Gantt chart, as we call it, goes into effect of where we're going to do this here in this phase and this phase and this phase, and they can arrange it so that no, we can race while this is going on. The biggest challenge to racing would be when we have to repave the racetrack and put in the soft walls or the safer walls. That's when there'll be some time, but you do that in the off season.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you historically, it has happened before when Mr. Donahoe dropped the banks from 36 degrees to the current 18 degrees in 1972. It was late June before they ran their first race. I can also tell you that in 1985, when Mr. Hodgson went bust on us and Gary Baker had to come in and take over, we did not run we ran one race in May and we did not run again until June. So compressing the season down is not something that hasn't been done before due to circumstances. And I think there's a potential for 1 year. Yeah, you'll see that first race in June rather than April. It can be done. It can be done. Look at my eyes, Mo. You know me. It can be done.
Guys, this is info that I can tell you with all certainty you cannot get anywhere else. Joe Williams of the Williamson Herald, Nashville Fairgrounds historian, as far as I'm concerned, joining us here on Main Street Sports today. You can follow him on Twitter at Joe_T_Williams. And I'm telling you, when it comes to racing in Nashville, beyond as well, but certainly here in Nashville, there's no one more knowledgeable than this guy.
Been around a long time. You know that. I've been around a long time.
You're preaching to the choir, man, but there's something to be said for that, contrary to what some folks might think. So
yeah, ain't that the truth?
Yeah. Joe, I'm gonna spring something on you here. I'm gonna keep you around for a segment because we're going to get into our Main Street Preps and Mostradamus picks for round 2 of the playoffs, and just gonna get a little feedback from you because I don't want to do it by myself. So,
well, I can tell you based on the first round, you're a heck of a lot better than I've been.
Well, we'll see how round 2 goes to later here this weekend. But Joe Williams of the Williamson Herald joining us here on Main Street Sports today, gonna ride with us for the remainder of the show, which is another 12 minutes or so. So join us on the other side of this break. Again, this is Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck yes, that'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Tennessee. Because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Maury County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back to the final segment of Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint. I'm Maurice Patton. Justin Kulik running the controls for us today. Chris Yao out with his new baby and his wife, and Joe Williams of the Williamson Herald hanging out with us from the last segment where he expressed his glee over the recent reports coming out of the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. Racing is headed back. Big time racing, cup racing.
And NASCAR is headed back. That's the big thing.
Yeah, and Joe's a happy camper, and I like when Joe's a happy camper. So we are going to swing back into high school football for the final segment of our show here today, as we go through Main Street Prep staff-wide round 2 high school football predictions, as it is headlined on the website mainstreetpreps.com. So if you don't want to wait for me to go through these, you can just call it up on your mobile device and skip out. But
why?
Why would you want to do that when you can listen to me and Joe? So the Main Street Preps game of the week, Joe Pope Prep at Brentwood Academy. Brentwood Academy won this matchup earlier this year, and personally I think they win it again. I think Kenny Minchie is back at quarterback for Pope Prep, but I just think Brentwood, they're the number 1 seed out of the West, and they are that for a reason. I think it'll probably be a close ball game, but I and most of my MSP cohorts seem to be rolling with the Eagles on this one. Any thoughts?
I probably would agree with you on that one. Of course, the other half is Division II, and it may hurt some feelings here. Don't mean to, but why have a playoff? What do they got? 10 teams?
They have 12
regular season.
In Division II AAA. There are 12 teams, and all 12 of them make the playoffs. And the more I consider those numbers, the harder they are to stomach. I mean. Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. I don't know how you address it necessarily, but do something.
So that's why I don't want to complain too much, because I don't really have an answer, and I just don't think it's fair to complain if you don't have a suggestion.
Right.
And
I just had that conversation with somebody earlier today regarding realignment and some of the results that have come out of that. And he said, let me preface this by saying I don't want to do what the TSSAA does.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Smyrna at Beach. We talked about this one, or I talked about this one when we were going through the 6A bracket. I think this is going to be a barn burner, man. I think Beach has played some really good ball over the course of the year, but I think Smyrna, there's something to this Smyrna team in particular, and I think they're going to go up there and make it close. I think Beach is really tough to beat at home. They don't lose a whole lot up there. I don't think they're going to lose this one, but I think it's going to be a really entertaining matchup.
I think Smyrna's probably coming back to where they were under Coach Shad Owens years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But experience and being at home will make a difference in this game. Experience in this kind of game will make a difference for the Bucks.
Yeah. I've got Beach by a field goal. By the way, Chris has Beach by 10. He's a little bit more confident than I am. Chris also has Brentwood Academy beating Pope Prep by 10. I've got Brentwood Academy by a field goal. I think there's going to be a lot of close games this weekend.
Yes.
One that may not be is when Clarksville comes to Antioch to take on Cane Ridge tomorrow night. Eddie Woods has done a great job over there. I really like Isaac Shelby and what he's done up at Clarksville. these are a couple of teams that have been pretty well tested. I just think Cane Ridge is maybe a smidge more talented than Clarksville, and I think that plays out tomorrow night.
I would take Cane Ridge by 10.
I've got them by 11, actually.
Okay.
So,
okay. Well,
Chris
funny,
has
we're
them,
right there together. Yeah.
Go figure. Great minds,
Yeah.
right? Chris has Cane Ridge 28-27. So, Blackman at Coffee County tomorrow night. I don't know that I think home field is going to make a great deal of difference in this one. I saw Blackman earlier this year against Summit. They've got talent all over the field. This is a good Coffee County team, but Alante Taylor ain't walking through that door. I'm taking the Blaze in this one by a touchdown.
Okay. That'd be hard pressed to argue. I think it's probably closer to a toss-up. But I think it's a toss-up because it is at Coffee County.
At Coffee County? There you go.
That's a couple of points in their favor and makes it a toss-up.
Chris has Blackman 31-21. McCallie at Ensworth. McCallie, the defending, I think the two-time defending Division II AAA state champion, but there's been a couple of chinks in the armor with the Chattanooga squad this year. And Ensworth, again, a lot of times I feel like it comes back to coaching, and I really like what Rock Batten has been able to do over the last few years over at Ensworth, and I think he's kind of been building this team incrementally, and I like Ensworth in this one here. I've got Ensworth by a field goal.
This is getting scary. Okay.
Yeah, well, and to round it out, Chris has Ensworth 28-27. So we're all on the same page here. Maybe we just know something, man. Donaldson Christian, speaking of defending state champions, DCA is the defending D2A state titleist. They travel to Friendship Christian over in Lebanon. The Commanders have been pretty dominant over the course of this season, and I believe they beat DCA earlier in the season. So I'm taking them to do so again. I've got them 35-27. Chris has them doubling up the Wildcats 42-21. So any thoughts, Mr. Williams?
No comment.
All right.
Although we will talk in a little while when there's cash to be exchanged.
Okay. All right. Joe, a game that you, Charles Pulliam, and the folks at the Williamson Herald will probably have some concern with. Defending Class 5A state runner-up Page goes to Mount Juliet tomorrow night. Thoughts?
Well, I hate Mount Juliet. That's a 42-year deal. That's a long story, and it's become a joke. I don't really. I did for a long time.
It's not a joke. It is a long story, but I had forgotten until that very moment. Yes,
yeah.
yes. So you're going to have a tough time picking Mount Juliet under any circumstance.
Yeah, well, you know what? You give the devil their due, though. And this is an excellent football team they've got. They have worked very hard to get to this point. I am a bit concerned. There have been some injuries and illness issues with Page. I picked Page to win this game here locally in our group, but it's one of those 28-27 deals. I think they're going to have to squeak her.
I've got it 35-31 Page.
Yeah.
Chris has got it 28-20 Mount Juliet. So
and that wouldn't really surprise me that much, to be honest.
Yeah. So White County at Nolensville. Again, if I could go to any game I wanted to tomorrow night, this would be the one, because I would love to see Malachi Dow.
This is the one that we're going to get to take care of tomorrow for local radio in Franklin. And when I sat down and started to do my research, I'm like, okay, 601 yards total offense last week. They beat Franklin County, 49-30.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, you got the Tipping Kid and you got Malachi. Okay, well, who else ran? Nobody. Okay, well, how many passing yards do they have?
None.
601 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground. Rushing. Talked to some folks who were there. Said Franklin County several times put 11 men in the box, and it was like, beautiful. Bring them all up here so that we can run past them.
Run around them.
Yeah,
yep.
And once they hit that seam, it's over. It's
because you're all in the box. If we can just get a reach block and get the edge, we are 88 and out the gate, as a certain former Tennessee coach would say.
I'm trying to remember. I guess Malachi had 310. His counterpart had 290 something at 291. Yeah, and I know Coach Paul Derrick is a little bit concerned for exactly what we're talking about, and that is, as he told me earlier, he said you can stuff. He said they can run 50 plays, you can stuff them 48 times, and they're going to score twice and beat you 14-7. He says, that's kind of what could happen.
That's tough.
So,
yeah.
I think Nolensville has a chance. They've got a passing attack that I think will keep them in the game. And if this turns into a track meet and a scoring competition, I think Nolensville can outscore them.
I think Nolensville wins this ball game. I've got Nolensville 42-34. Samson Johnson is not chopped liver, and I saw earlier this week Chance Fitzgerald got a scholarship offer from Pitt.
Yep.
The quarterback is already committed to Georgia Southern. So, I mean, they got some talent out there as well. The Knights do, and they are bidding for win number 12 in 12 games. So,
here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing, I'll tell you. One of the things that made Summit so good the last couple of years was, of course, you had Keaton and the Wade brothers, but you also had and I've just drawn a complete blank.
Brady Pierce.
Thank you. Brady and about 4 others, and a pretty solid offensive line. This Nolensville team in some ways reminds me a lot of Summit because they've got these 3 guys that and just as soon as you concentrate just on them, there's about 4 more that can step outside and beat you.
There you go.
And you weren't looking for them. And I think that may be what it takes tomorrow night.
I've got Nolensville by 8. Chris has Nolensville 41-20. So I think he's kind of banking on the fact that I don't know what he's banking on, but I don't see it being that wide open. But we shall see. Lebanon at Oakland. I think Oakland handles this one big.
Next game.
3 touchdowns. Chris has got it roughly the same. He's got 45-17 Oakland. I mean, they're just too talented and too well coached, I think.
I would like to see. I'd like to see something different for our buddy Tommy Bryan and the guys up in Lebanon. But I'm afraid you guys have got that one pretty well called.
Yeah. Here's one I'm interested to get your reaction to. East Nashville at Waverly.
Two weeks ago, I would not have hesitated. I'd have told you East Nashville without a doubt. They've had some internal issues. Coach Jamal Stewart won last week against White House in a very close game at home after starting a freshman and 2 sophomores in the offensive line, replacing 2 seniors and a junior. How much did they grow up last week? That's the question. If they grew up, and if the right association shows up in the stripes, you won't say it, I will. Then I think they've got a chance. But I don't think it. 2 weeks ago I'd have said it's a slam dunk. Today I don't know.
Yeah. I've got East Nashville. They lost a couple of games at the end of the year. Like I said, they lost at Riverdale, and they lost up at Smith County in the Region 5 3A championship. That's a game that pretty well put them on the road right here as the number 2 seed out of that region. Waverly has played some really good ball this year. Their only loss was to Columbia Academy back in week 2. They've run off 8 straight, I think now. But I just think that East Nashville has something to prove. Now, I did not know about all of the internal issues that you mentioned there, and that certainly does kind of throw a wrench into things. In fact, Chris has Waverly 27-25. I've got East Nashville 20-14. So,
and let me cap that by saying that may have changed. That may have worked everything out. I've not talked to anybody in the last 6 days, 5 days. So I mean, there are ways to make amends. The culpa helps sometimes.
As an East Nashville graduate, Joe tends to have a little insight into the Eagles over there. So, and one other game that Mostradamus needs to take a quick look at. It's the only game that we've got down here in Murray County. As again, Decatur County Riverside comes to Mount Pleasant. Riverside coming in after defeating Loretto 56-31 last week. Had a running back. You were talking about White County. Riverside running back Desmond Thomas went for 291 and 5 touchdowns. And the quarterback, Ethan Quinn, rushed for another 117, I believe. So,
and the team they played was what, 2-8?
And no, Loretto was 5-5.
Okay,
maybe?
okay.
4-5, something like that. Yeah, but they really took care of business. But Loretto has not been great defensively this year. Mount Pleasant has been. They've got 4 shutouts, 3 in a row, and they have held 6 teams to 7 points or less.
I'll take them right now. I don't care who they're playing.
Yeah, I like the Tigers in this one. I like them close, but I like them in this one. So you can check out the rest of Mostradamus's picks on MainStreetMurray.com. You can check out, again, the Main Street Prep staff's picks at MainStreetPreps.com. And we are way over time. We missed the post today, Justin. I apologize. No, not your fault. It's our fault. But we, Justin?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Hey, it's probably, obviously, it's past time for us to get out of here. So let's do that. For Joe Williams, thank you so much for hanging out with us a little extra time, Mr. Williams, and we will catch you up. For Justin Kulik, handling all the controls, I'm Maurice Patton. Thanks for joining us here, and come back tomorrow at 2 o'clock on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint.